Okay, so we just finished our second read of The Starry Messenger by Peter Siss, and some of the questions for the parents that you can ask your child after you finish reading, or you can stop the video if you want to write some of these down or screenshot them and then talk to your child about them through the reading or after. You are more than welcome to. So on page 2, this seems very blurry to me. Think about the two men who we read about on these pages. Tell your partner who they are and how they are different. So this is the page where we were talking about Ptolemy and Copernicus. Page 6. What does the author mean when he says that the little boy was born with stars in his eyes? And how does the illustration help us understand this phrase? So, a probing question. Galileo viewed the stars and other objects in space. If the author said he was born with stars in his eyes, what do you think that means about Galileo's interests, even as a young boy? And then again on the right side, these are possible answers that you're kind of looking for from your child. Page 8. It started with Galileo thrived. So when the author talks about Galileo here, he says that stars were always on his mind. What does that mean? And how does the illustration help us figure out the meaning of that phrase? That was the page where we saw him drawing the stars in the dirt while the other kids were playing. And page 10. So, did experiments proving Aristotle wrong discovered the law of falling objects by showing that two balls of unequaled weight fall at the same speed? Point to the illustration that shows this experiment. So, this was on believe this page. So it's talking about that. Over here on this side. So that was the experiment that it was talking about in the side notes there. So you're asking, what have we learned about Galileo from this page? How did we learn this information? So the words and the pictures and the side captions. Before moving on, it says reread the page, the sentence that says Galileo is our star. The people would say, does that mean the same thing as the way we've used the word star so far in this text? So Galileo is our star. So are the people using that in the same way that we've been talking about the word star? Pages 14 through 16. After reading the main text, read the caption on page 15. It is a beautiful thing and most gratifying to the sight to behold the body of the moon. The moon is not robed in a smooth and polished surface, but it is in fact rough and uneven, covered everywhere just like the earth's surface, with huge prominences, deep valleys, and chasms. Which we did read that in the other video. After reading the main text, read all 4 captions on page 16. The author says that Galileo was amazed by what he could see with the telescope. What were some of his observations? So we read all of those. And how did Galileo help people begin to change what they know about the earth and the universe? And in what ways did Galileo's telescope and observations help change what people understood about the Earth and the universe? Okay, so after those questions to help direct your child's understanding through that story, that is a very complex text. So it's important to ask those questions and make sure that they're understanding what we're reading. And by completing the tasks, that's going to help make sure that they're getting the parts of this that they really need to understand. So the task today is task number 11. And it says, your grandfather loves learning about historical people. He doesn't know much about Galileo and has asked you to write a biography of Galileo so that he can learn about him. In your biography, describe some of the observations Galileo made and why the telescope was important to Galileo's life. So your writing should include an introduction to your topic, supply some facts about the topic, and provide some sense of closure. So, I'm going to give you an example of what that task should look like on a first grade level. It's not meant to be very deep and understand all of those concepts that we just read in Starry Messenger, but it should be able to explain a little bit about Galileo and why he was so important. So my example for task 11 is something along the lines of Galileo was an important person who studied space. He used a telescope. The telescope let him see things that were very far away. Galileo used the telescope to look at the moon. He observed that the moon is rough. He also used a telescope to observe spots on the sun. People know a lot about space today because of Galileo's observations. So a lot of our vocabulary words there, telescope, observations, observed. So make sure that your child is introducing the topic about Galileo being important, uses those vocabulary words, lists some facts about that topic, and a sense of closure. If you all need any help, as always, just let me know, and I would be glad to help you.